everybody to Parenting with Mindfulness by Swamini Supriyananda, who is a monk at Chinmaya Mission. She is a former child psychologist from Australia who committed herself to the life of service in 1998. She is a compassionate and loving teacher. She is known as the living expression of feminine divine. Her honest and contemporary views have made her a favorite amongst the young people who have learned to apply traditional values to their modern lives to achieve a healthy balance between spiritual and material in life. Hari Om, Swaminiji.
Hari Om, dear. Hari Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunatu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So just at the very onset, I'd like to say that parenting is an extremely difficult job, and most people do the best they can and do a fairly good job. And it's one of those things where just trial and error, we figure things out. And so some mistakes are going to happen, and then the kids don't stay the same. They keep changing as they grow older, and so then we have to adjust the way we're doing it. And so again, some trial and error. And we also don't stay the same. We also grow, and our perspectives change, our strengths change. So none of what I'm going to say today is a criticism, because I genuinely appreciate how hard it is. And I sincerely believe most people do it from their heart, and so do a very good job. So with mindfulness, I want to define it first. Mindfulness is to be completely in the present moment and to be able to have all the information that is in that present moment, we are aware of it. So for example, sometimes when we are on our phones, people are talking to us, and then we go back to them and we say, sorry, what did you say? And so we weren't in the moment, and therefore we didn't absorb the information in that moment. Even though you're on the phone, and in that moment, the phone information is also relevant. But mindfulness is about being not just in the moment, but to receive all that information that is available to us in that moment through our five senses, and also through more than just our five senses. So, for example, when I'm looking at you, I'm receiving the information of what you look like, but I'm also receiving the information of, if you make an expression, I can understand the emotion behind that expression, or I can understand the thought behind that expression. So, if you look at like this, then I'll know, okay, there's something you quite didn't understand, and I have to repeat it. So I'm in the moment to be able to absorb the information that is there. And not only am I absorbing that information, there's no judgment about the information. It's just the sense of, this is what is. So if I'm right now in my room and I hear the traffic sound, it's just traffic sound. There's no judgment of, I don't like the traffic sound, or, gosh, it's so busy today, and why is there so much movement outside? All of that is additional thoughts, which isn't mindfulness. Mindfulness is just the acknowledging of the thought. There's traffic noise. Okay, so now that we know what mindfulness is, what is mindful parenting? So it gets defined in slightly different ways, depending on who's teaching it. I have seen some interpretations of mindful parenting as being basically allowing the kid to develop as they want to and allowing them to express themselves. And sure, kids should express themselves. But it's not that in mindfulness, they can just do whatever they want to, and they don't have to bring themselves up. It's important that when we understand parenting, as per the age group of the child, the very word parenting means we involved. We have to do something. So when the kid's very young, so let's say 0 to 4, our doing is, taking care of their basic needs, their food, their clothing, their bathing, their safety. So we're doing a lot. They're not just bringing themselves up. And then even from 5 to 10, children need structure and need guidance. There's so much they don't know, in terms of managing themselves, in terms of understanding emotions, in terms of interpersonal skills. And so they're picking that up mainly by modeling what adults are doing, but also by certain instructions that we give them and the structure that we create for them. So they're not bringing themselves up. Parenting, the very word suggests that, we are involved in their upbringing, not just as parents, but teachers, grandparents, society at large. It takes a village to bring up a child. Okay, so if it's not that the child, we are being mindful of the child and their personality and allowing them total freedom. Of course, we allow them freedom of their personality, but we don't necessarily allow them total freedom of their behavior. Then actually what I would understand the most beneficial process of mindful parenting is when we live our lives, most of the time we are thinking so many thoughts at the same time. So even while listening to this talk, you could possibly be thinking, of your to-do list and what has to get done in the day, or you're thinking about the child and what they have to get done today. Sometimes we remember the past, and sometimes even just in the moment we get distracted. And so what happens is, because there's so much happening within our minds and within the world outside, we don't necessarily collect all the information. And even the information that we do collect, we don't necessarily understand the place of that information within our thinking process. So let's do the first one. We don't get all the information. So in parenting, mindfully, the idea is I am completely present, and so I'm receiving all the information from my child. I'm receiving the information of what they're feeling, their body language, what they're saying, and also I receive the information about the surroundings. If it's cold, they need a jacket. If it's hot, maybe take off the jacket. So I'm present in that moment to be able to ascertain what is needed of me in that moment. Sometimes when the kids are younger, they do that. It's not a fake cry. It's kind of a whiny cry. So a baby or even a toddler, and it's more like, it's not, they themselves maybe don't know exactly what they need. And so if I'm mindfully parenting, I hear the cry and I think, well, actually, nothing's needed. They're just having a whinge. And then if the cry gets a little bit more demanding, and again, if I'm completely present, I notice and I think, okay, that's a tantrum, and I don't need to necessarily respond. Or I notice, no, that's hunger, and definitely I need to respond. So the first part of mindful parenting is it's actually a really hard job to do, because mindfulness is a really hard thing to do, to stay in the present and just absorb the information of the present so that I can act the best in that moment as per what is needed. Right? So if I'm having a conversation with the child, let's say a much older child, let's say a 9-year-old or even a teenager, and I'm having a conversation with them and I can see they irritated. And as I'm having the conversation, if I'm completely present, I'll even be able to work out, are they irritated with me? Or are they just irritated with something else and taking it out on me? Because we all do that. And kids do it all the more with their parents. They take out frustrations that they have developed along the way on their parent. And so if I have this information now, they just irritated with someone else and they're taking it out on me. But this is a beautiful bit of information for me to have, because then I'm not going to be annoyed, like thinking, why are you annoyed with me? I didn't do anything to you. And then, so they annoyed, then I get annoyed, and then they get more annoyed. And then it becomes this horrible back and forth, which is not at all conducive. Whereas they annoyed and I'm present in the moment and I know it's got nothing to do with me, my reaction is like, you have a bad day. Or even I could maybe make them aware that, you're annoyed at something else, and you can have left your annoyance with that person in that situation. You need not have brought it here into the home. And just that being present allows me to gain the information correctly, which then allows me to respond to that situation or sentence in a correct manner. But if I'm also already in my head thinking, I've got so much to do and I have to remember to, put the laundry in, and then I have to remember I still haven't paid a particular bill, and then I'm doing all of that, and then the kid is irritable and they make a comment, I don't even necessarily acknowledge that they're irritable. Firstly, I could possibly completely miss that. And so I'm not able to cater to it or guide it or to nurture it in a way that's helpful to them. Or secondly, I notice they're annoyed, and because I've got so many thoughts in my head, I snap back at them. Like, did you clean up your room? I've already told you 300 times. And that response of me snapping is because I'm responding to them based on what's going on in my head, rather than being open and aware to what's going on in their heads. So that's the first part of mindful parenting, which already, if you practice, you will find a significant difference in the amount of quality of exchange that we have. Because, the thing is, we are the adults and we have the maturity to be able to see things. Whereas with the kid, they don't have the maturity. They feel anger and they don't necessarily have the maturity to know that they're feeling anger. They don't have the maturity to understand why they're feeling anger. And they definitely don't have the maturity to know how to deal with this anger in a constructive way. Whereas we as adults, to a much larger extent, have all this information and tools, and if we are available and present, we can execute it in a way that's very, very productive. Okay, so that's step one of mindful parenting. And it's not just parenting, it's having any kind of conversation with anyone. So you'll find that even if you speak to your spouse in this way, the connection and the ease of the exchange with the spouse will be so much richer and smoother and meaningful. I think the most significant word here is that it makes things more meaningful, because so much of our life is we just reacting unknowingly to things that are happening around us without necessarily understanding what it is and then consciously responding. And that's what mindfulness is, being conscious and responding consciously. Now, the second part of mindful parenting, which is also very powerful, is, so I said we gain the information and just gaining that information gives us power on how to act. The second part is we gain information about the world outside, which we need to. If I'm looking at you, I need to gain information on you, the surroundings, the atmosphere, what just happened, the situation, and so everything is appropriate. But when I'm mindful, I'm also very aware of me. What does that mean? So each one of us are complex beings, right? We have body, we have emotions, we have thoughts, we have belief systems, we have conditionings from our past, we have conditionings that we picked up along the way through the way we were socialized. And so sometimes we're not even aware of everything going on within us. A good example of this is before lockdown happened, I would have this ritual of making sure I drank enough water, because I would carry my water bottle around with me before going out of the house. I would drink my water and the minute I came back in. And so it was very nicely structured, and I would get enough water in. And then, then we started all just being home, and nobody was going anywhere. And so all those triggers to make me drink water kind of disappeared, because I wasn't leaving the house, and I didn't have to carry around a water bottle, and I didn't have to. And I think after a while I started developing, just not major, just these slight heavy heads. I kept thinking, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's going on? And it took me a while to work out I wasn't drinking as much water as I previously was. So we don't always understand what's going on with us. And this is a very tangible example, right? This is food, water, but both of them have an impact on us. Maybe food more than water. And so if I'm hungry and I don't even know I'm hungry, I could very easily become hangry and irritable with everyone around me. But actually, I'm just hungry. And so if I'm aware I am hungry, and I'm aware that I am irritable because I am hungry, there's a much higher chance that I don't take it out on you. Whereas if I don't even know I'm hungry, and I don't realize my irritation is caused by my hunger, then when you walk in through the door, there's a high chance I take out my irritability on you. So the second part of mindfulness is this understanding that we have of what's going on within us. So I've given both examples of body, but then there's aspects of our mind. I like something, I don't like something. Or I have a certain belief system, and my belief system makes me think in a certain way. It might even make me prejudice against something. It might make me conservative, or it might make me apprehensive, my belief system. So when somebody is talking, all of us, we have a running commentary in our head about what they say. We either agreeing with it, we either disagreeing with it, or we judging it that, she's intelligent, she's not so intelligent, she is selfish, she's shallow. We have this commentary in our head as we listen to everyone. And so sometimes when we respond to another person, we're responding because of something going on within us. And so they may be doing something, or they may have said something, and because of my body, my hunger, my thirst, or because of my emotions, my thought patterns, my conditioning, I respond, right? It could even be that I'm upset, or it could be that, like I said, I'm prejudiced. And so this is a fixed response. So mindfulness is to be in the present moment and receive information. Firstly, about the world outside. And secondly, the information that I'm receiving is about myself. And so I know where I'm at. And so let's say the child says to me something to the effect of, my friends' mothers allow them to do this, and my friends' mothers are such a good cook, and you don't do any of that. And so if I am insecure anyways, that I am not a good mother, or if I'm insecure that I'm not a good cook, then that comment from the child is going to run havoc in my mind. And so mindfulness is, I hear the comment, and then I become extremely aware of the emotions that it's creating within me. But not only am I aware of the emotions it's creating within me, I'm also aware of why those emotions are rising within me. And so, and this doesn't happen overnight, but let's say the kid has said this, that my cake doesn't taste as nice, and the kid's friend's mom makes much yummier cakes. And then I think to myself, well, I can feel bad about this, and I can beat myself up about not being as good, or I can acknowledge that I can't do everything well. I can do some things well, and also a 6-year-old's opinion should be taken with a pinch of salt. So then my reaction is going to be very different. So it all happens in a few seconds, right? It's not like it's a long process. So kid says, so-and-so's mom made such a yummy cake. This cake is horrible. And immediately I'll react. It's not going to be a long process. But in my head, when I am mindful, I'll say, oh, well, you'll just have to get yourself invited more often and have her cake then. But I can have that cheeky response or that non-confrontational response to them only when I'm completely aware of the emotion and not give in to the emotion. So let's say kid says the cake was nicer at friend's house. I'm not aware that I feel compared and I'm being, my insecurities are being triggered. Then I'll say, then I could react in so many different ways. I could react in, you never appreciate everything I do for you. Do you understand how long I spent making your cake last time? And of course the kid's not going to understand. They don't have that maturity to have that level of gratitude and appreciation because they don't labor. They don't have a sense of appreciation for labor. Or I could react to the kid and that is no way to speak to your mother, and go to your room and you can't have your iPhone for the next 2 weeks. And so then it's a punishment because I'm upset because naturally I've been insulted. But when I react that way, the kid's very confused because they don't understand that I have insecurities. And they're not going to understand that because they don't have the maturity yet to know that as adults, we still have so many insecurities. In kids' minds, adults have everything all worked out. I mean, we don't. but they assume we do. And so they can't understand when we get sad, or they can't understand when we feel insulted. So, and then this is one of the ways they learn how to feel insulted and feel judged. And this is one of the ways in which they learn insecurities, because they're watching us react in these ways to them, right? It's not that they're even watching us reacting to each other. They're watching us react to them out of our insecurities, or out of our confusions, or out of our anger, and out of our space of sadness and overwhelmed and confusion. So it's a huge ask. Please, I by no means do I know that what I'm saying is something that can just be done like this. It takes an immense amount of training of our mind. So I am conscious of them. I collect that information and I respond appropriately. I'm also conscious of me and the work that I need to do on me. And so there's this beautiful divide. Sorry, I think with the virtual background, sometimes my hands disappear. But what I'm trying to say is that in a normal transaction, we have statement response, and then they respond to our statements, and then it becomes like this very quick badminton between the two people, and each one's just reacting. And at the end of the discussion, we confused. It's like, what just happened? Why is this person so angry? I just came in to talk about cake. And so there was a lot of emotion and there was a lot of exchange, but there was no necessarily understanding of what happened in the exchange, because it's reaction, reaction, reaction. But in mindfulness, in my head, as though I slow things down and make sense of it, and I don't react, I respond. So if I know, this is an insecurity in me, then I am able to separate me from them. And so this is something I have to deal with. It's my insecurity. But let's say the kid comes in and the kid is irritable, in the first example I give, then I'm fine. I was having a great day. Kid has come in irritable, and I'm able to say, this is them. This is not me. This is managing them. Whereas sometimes when they come in and they say something, actually I don't have to manage them. I have to manage me, because it's triggered stuff in me that I maybe haven't quite resolved yet. And so to have that awareness, and this is the most important word in mindfulness, to have that awareness of the information in that moment. So sometimes we have that whole conversation, and then when we're going to bed at night, we replay it in our head and we think, oh, I said that because I felt hurt and insulted. And so I didn't have that information in the moment, but when I think back on the incident, I now have that information. But now it's too late, right? And please know this as parents. If you go back to the kid a day later or even a few hours later and you'll say, earlier I was angry and I'm really sorry, they don't remember. Kids are actually very naturally in the moment. And they will, of course, in terms of memory power, they remember it. But they're not going to have that same level of being able to come back to that moment and adjust the exchange. So mindfulness is having the information in that moment, because I can make the adjustment I need to in that moment. Because once that moment is past, well, then exactly that moment has passed. And sure, we can apologize, and sure, we can refer back to things and admit that we were wrong, and we can, explain. And as they get older, they do understand, and they are able to be a bit mature. But the younger ones, no, they're just going to look at you with their eyes thinking, well, mommy is saying something and I have to respond, and they'll not, because that's the response they know we want from them. And so mindfulness is also this understanding of being aware of their capacity and their lack of capacity, because they haven't yet reached that cognitive stage or that maturity stage or that life lesson. And so to relate to them appropriately for whatever it is they understand. So yes, I think that's a good summary of mindfulness, and in terms of how we can use it for parenting. And when we aim to do this, you will find it's definitely not easy, and I don't like to use the word fail, but we're not able to quite master it. So there'll be a few lapses of awareness. There'll be times when the whole day has gone and we weren't, we weren't in the moment. And so here again, I started the talk with saying that I truly believe parents are very sincere in wanting to do a good job. And just that intention of wanting to do a good job. And when we have the knowledge, some points we'll be able to implement it, and at some points we don't implement it. And it's very important that there's no judgment of the kid. And we say this all the time in parenting talks: don't judge the kid, allow them to be who they are. But it's as important that we don't judge ourselves. Because, okay, we adults, and the kids think we're perfect, but we know better. We know we're still growing. And, there's a beautiful term that I've recently come across called self-parenting, where we actually need to parent ourselves as much as we need to parent the kids, because we by no means there. And all our efforts are just to get there. And so we start wherever we are, and we just slowly work towards it. And so if I'm mindful for 2 minutes in the day, pat yourself on the back. 2 minutes. And then, okay, let's aim for 3 tomorrow. And if we get there, great. And if we don't, we'll just keep trying. And so I really want to reiterate this to all you parents out there. Don't judge yourself too harshly. And also don't judge yourselves too complimentary. Because there are parents who will think, well, I'm doing a great job and I'm doing fantastic. And nobody's perfect, but I really do understand my kid, and I'm really, and there's not much room for improvement. And there's not, being available for feedback. So don't judge yourself to be so good. And definitely don't judge yourself to be so bad. And even to accomplish that, mindfulness is needed. Because mindfulness is what helps me know all the judgments I am making in any given moment in time. Okay, I can see Neera's already up on the screen, so I guess we're ready for the
Well, we've got some questions, but I mean, I wanted to say, Swaminiji, I mean, it's always pleasure listening to you, but it's also reassuring that, you know, we're doing an okay job and that we're really, really trying hard. And yes, parenting is not easy, but there are things we can do to help the children and help ourselves as well. Because they, you know, when they're stressed and we're stressed, and it's just a big commotion. So I think what you said about, you know, taking a step back and being mindful of yourself, and then, you know, the kids will follow, because they don't get it. They don't know why we're angry. They don't understand why all of a sudden mom's doing this. And like you said, they don't understand insult, that you've insulted me, but they don't get it. They're too young to understand, but we forget.
Yeah.
We forget.
And they don't understand why we stressed also.
Correct.
They don't understand why we upset them. They don't understand why we have such high expectations of them. Yeah.
So true. So we've got a couple of questions, you know, from some of the parents who are listening to us today. So one of the questions, and it's a very interesting one, is how do I strike a balance between being a caring or a spoiling parent?
So I mean, there's different schools of thoughts on parenting, but I am definitely from the school of thought where discipline is very necessary, extremely, extremely necessary. And you know, I work with kids. I work with kids as young as 1 and 2 years old, and I work with the teenagers. I have weekly classes with the teenagers, and in fact, during this COVID period, my teenagers have not allowed me to cancel class. Like sometimes right now it's school holidays, and so I sent out a circular saying, you know, classes are closed till the new year, and they will call me and say, but we all home and we're not traveling, why are classes closed? And I'll be like, because I want a holiday. They're like, no, but we're here, we can do class. And so I have the teenagers coming in, and a good understanding about, you know, what if they want to come back for class, I'm doing okay. And these kids that want to come back for class, when they were younger, I was very strict on them. They were not allowed to talk when I was talking. They were not allowed to be late. They were not allowed to be fidgeting during their prayers. And they still come back. You know, I think sometimes we feel as parents or as teachers and guardians, we want the kids to like us. And so we don't want to discipline them, and we don't want to be strict on them, because then they won't like us. And the only reason I told you my story is because I want you to know that I'm very strict. If anyone's seen me as a teacher, there's a structure, and you follow the structure, and they'll love you. They're not going to love you less because you're strict. But when we don't give them structure, they don't master values. And this is the important point. They don't master the value of discipline. They don't master the value of respect. They don't master the value of being sensitive to another person.
Yeah.
They don't master the value of honesty. So, you know, and it's these values that strengthen our personalities. So later on in life, if they don't have the value of discipline, how are they going to discipline themselves in their professions? And so we see, you know, they don't last more than 6 months in their job sometimes.
Yeah. Correct.
And, you know, the bosses are really hitting their heads thinking how to deal with this new generation. So the discipline is required not to make my life easy, although it will make my life easier. But the discipline is required to teach them the values, and I'm including honesty as a value, because when they're indisciplined, they will start getting careless with what they say.
True.
Right? They will start getting insensitive to other people's needs. And you know, I see them getting insensitive to helpers, but I see them getting insensitive to their parents, to their grandparents. And sometimes they walk into my class and the things they say, I'm like, whoa. Until we set up the structure, that kid, I get a great sense of what's going on in the home life or in the school life. So, you know, these are values we want them to have.
Hmm.
And so please discipline them. Please
Great point.
discipline them. And you can't over discipline. Not in today's world. In today's world, there's so many birthday parties. I don't remember attending so many birthday parties. I'm sure you didn't attend so many birthday parties. You can't over discipline them because they're going to have the birthday party, they're going to have the Christmas party, they're going to have their TV, they're going to have their gadgets, and they're going to get exposed to everything. And they're going to have lots of opportunities to indulge and to enjoy. And so you really, you don't have to be afraid of over disciplining in today's world, because today's world, we are built as a society to indulge the kid.
Yes, that's a great point. Thank you so much. All right, we've got one more question. The parent is saying, I can't control my anger sometimes, and then I feel bad. How should I manage that?
So firstly, we have to understand why it is we're getting angry. And the reason we're getting angry is because we want them to do something. Or we just want them to listen to us. Right? But basically, it's I want this. Whatever it is, I want you to get off the laptop. I want you to exercise. I want you to finish your food, which are all good things as a parent. But this is a trick. I have to be able to say, finish your food, and take away the I want you to. I don't know if that makes sense. This is just something that has to be done. It's not I want you to. Because the minute it's I want, anger is going to come. I know this is not easy. And even as a teacher, all the time in a class, I want the class to be structured. I want the kids to learn. I want the kids to be respectful of each other. But really, over a period of time, when you understand that it's not I want, this is just a good way for it to be. And actually, this is in your best interest. Therefore, I am doing it. And then it's no longer, I want the class to be well behaved. It becomes that the environment needs to be such that you're all are learning. So the me wanting is what creates the anger. And so somewhere in our heads, we have to be able to get to the result without the wanting ruling us, controlling us. Right? Because otherwise it becomes a me versus you.
True.
Listen to me. Right? And then I have to be the one that wins, and you have to do what I am saying. And if we have that equation, it becomes a battle of will. And the kid will fight you because the kid will want to win. Whereas if I take away the I want you to listen to me and I just say, you need to finish your food. Now the kid's not fighting me and my will, and it's not about me winning versus you winning.
Hmm.
This just has to be done. Now, it's not so much in what I say, it's in what I feel. Because if I'm feeling, I want you to listen to me, they know. Everyone knows, the whole world knows. And so and this is why mindfulness is so powerful, because I have to be aware that I'm feeling that.
Hmm.
I want power over you. And this is a natural thing in parenting, that we want power over the kid because we feel we know better. And we do know better sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. But the minute I want power, I am not being the best person I can be. Yeah. And there'll be an element of aggression in the way I do things because I want power.
Yeah.
But if I let go of wanting power, then that element of aggression goes away. And then I'll look at the kid and I'll say, okay, so what are we going to do to make sure you finish your food? How long are we going to sit here, honey? Or I might even say, so do you want to have this for dinner then? Will you finish it then? Would that work for you? So you're coming up with possibilities rather than you listen to me. Now, I'm sure the mother's doing a great job, and I'm sure the mother doesn't mean to have a power struggle. It's just human nature. We do it all the times. We do it with our kids. We do it with our spouses. We do it with our friends. We get into little power struggles everywhere in our lives.
Thank you for that. It is hard, but not that it can't be done. But you're right about the whole taking the I want.
Yeah, this one can be done because
Yeah.
we love them more than we want to have power over them.
That's true. That's true. That's a great point. Yes.
So when we remember we love them more than we want to have power over them, this one can be done. Of course, we'll have good moments and bad moments.
Sure. No, I think quite valuable, definitely. Another question that we have is how do I help my child not feel insecure? So I'm assuming the parent is not trying to make the child feel like that. No parent would want to, but somehow they're probably sensing that the child is insecure and they don't want them to.
How old the child is?
Sorry?
Can I ask how old this child is?
I'll have to just check on the chat. Well, they have to be between 2 and 5. I'm assuming, yes.
Okay, 2 and 5. At this age, actually, insecurity is not, might be fearful. They might be fearful, not so much insecure, unless there's a younger sibling that's taken the attention. I need a little bit more background to help this person, but just generally speaking, for 2 and 5-year-olds, the insecurity is when they feel somebody's taken their place, which actually we need to train them to understand that we can love more than one person. So if a younger sibling has come along and the older one is like, you don't love me, then you have to be very matter of fact. Don't cater to that insecurity. Of course I love you, sweetheart. And because if you're like, no, I love you, you as precious, then they know that they got your attention, and then they're gonna play with it, and they're gonna use it against you, and so it has to be like, well, I love, your dad, I love my dad, I love you, I love so many people, and now we have another one to love, and then the more people we love, the more love we have in our lives, and not to over compensate for what we think they're feeling, because remember, they don't feel the same way as us. They don't even get jealous in the same way as us. Right? So if we make light of the fact that, it's okay if you don't have mommy as many hours. It's like, it's her turn now. And they won't understand turn. But you say it, because it's what, like I said, it's not what you say, it's what you feel. Mm. They understand what you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great point. So we've got some more questions. Somebody's asked that we as parents disagree with each other. How do we resolve our difference of opinion on certain parenting decisions to make sure what's best for the child?
This is a hard one. When parents don't agree on with each other, it is a genuinely hard one.
Mm-hmm.
So the main thing here is that parents should agree on the value. The way in which we communicate to the child is not so much about you should sleep at 8 or 8:30, you should eat earlier or later. It's not those things. If we disagree on, is not as catastrophic, right? Play with this friend or don't play. Brush your teeth before breakfast or after breakfast. Those things are not as major as what's the value I want to make sure that my kid knows they have to have, because it's something I value. Right? This is the family value. The family value is we keep our things clean. The family value is we are there for each other. We don't walk out on each other. Family value is we look at each other when we talk. The family value is, so if parents can agree on the value, then the way each one wants to implement it is okay. But if they don't agree on the value itself, then it becomes really hard. And for the benefit of the child, they have to agree on which values they're going to emphasize.
Great point. Yes. I think the value point is very good, because you're right. We can disagree on a lot of things that really don't matter anyway, but it's the values that as a parent, as a couple, is what you have decided. And as long as you can agree on them, you're fine.
And so even when you disagree on, let's say there's a birthday party and one parent says, let them go, and the other one's like, no, right? Why? Yeah. What's the value you saying, let them go? And what's the value of not letting them go?
Got it. Makes sense, yes.
That we value balance and they already went to XYZ and so now we're not. Or the value is, no, we're there for people. So we go. So we have to understand the value behind the decision.
Actually, that's a fantastic point you've made, because a lot of even what would seem like a small decision or insignificant, there may be a value behind it. And it's a good thing that parents discuss and decide that. And it'll make the decision so much easier, and also for the other person to understand. Because most of the time it is about, I say yes, you say no, but we don't understand why. And by bringing that, it'll also be easy to understand why this person is saying yes and why this person is saying no.
Yeah. And you might agree with them.
Yeah. Right. Okay. We have a couple of more questions. So Anji, if you don't mind, we'll just stay a few more minutes extra. So one of the questions we have is, in a group of friends, my child sometimes plays with his friends, but sometimes prefers to sit independently and do his own activity. Is there something to worry about?
2 to 5, right? You said the age is?
Yes.
Yeah. At this age, they do a lot of parallel play and individual play. And even as adults, sometimes we need a break from other people. So, as long as they have developed social skills, it's fine. If they're isolating themselves because they haven't developed the age appropriate social skill, then you can train them on social skills. But they don't have social skills at 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Start developing social skills at 4 and 5. So they might be also a late blossomer. So watch it and notice, do they like being alone or do they not have the social skills? If they like being alone, go for it. Being alone's amazing. If they don't have a skill, then definitely teach them the skill.
Got it. I think that should help answer the question. Now, there's another very interesting question, and we'll keep this as the last one. And again, if anybody has more questions, please feel free to get in touch with Swaminiji. She's amazing. So this question is it right to ask a child to control their emotions? So, if you've got guests who come to our house and the child is overexcited and we keep talking to them and, sometimes it may irritate them and we ask them to stop. Is that okay? Is it okay to, get the kids to control their emotions because it, doesn't look nice in front of guests?
No. At this age, 2 to 5, they don't know how to control their emotion. They don't even know what the emotion is. So at this age, you're asking something of them that they don't have the capacity to do. So if you want them to settle down, you have to arrange an activity for them. So this is why I said kids respond very well to structure. So guests are coming over and you're going to get excited. You're going to say hello to them for 5 minutes, and then you're going to come here and play this game. And it can be Lego, it can be, but then don't isolate them from other people also, because if they're very social, so you can play in the room and you're going to let us talk, and then you're going to come back again after we finish talk. So create some kind of structure. But no, at this age, they don't know how to control their emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great point. I think, that does make a lot of sense to have a structure and, not control them, but also not exclude them. Because, simple thing, they're excited. They want to meet our guests all the time. Yeah. So include them, but also let them know, well, you've had your time. Yeah. And now I have something else for you. So not like, do go whatever. But we've got something else planned for you.
And it's not a punishment.
Correct.
Please make sure it's not a punishment. Yeah. Right? It's just giving them space to do something so you have time to socialize. But yeah, they're going to be excited. We're sitting at home only all day. If something comes, it's very exciting.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Swaminiji. Like I said, it's just always just so inspiring and reassuring to talk to you, because really, I mean, all of us, and especially the ones, we have young kids, and I guess, well, every stage has its own challenges and parenting. I mean, my parents still worry about me and I'm a grown woman. So I think that never ends, especially I think, with Indian parents. But it is so reassuring to know that, we are, what we want is best for our children. That's the main thing. And we can do certain adjustments here and there to do things better so that, we are better parents to the ones that we love the most.
So I don't have parenting talks on the podcast, but I have a lot of mindfulness talks on the podcast. If everyone wants to hear it, the podcast is called Thinking About It, and it's on YouTube and it's on any podcast platform. We also have a series of talks on parenting coming up late January by Swamiji. So maybe if people are interested, I can pass the information to you and you can pass it to them.
That'll be fantastic. We'll certainly do that. We will share it with everybody, and we'll share the podcast as well after the event as well, so that, people can go back in their own time and listen to it. And definitely do let us know about the January one. So I know all the parents would be, wanting to hear this, because, it's hard and we want to learn. That's the thing.
Yes, it is hard. It is hard. Make
Well,
sure
thank
you
you so much.
tap
And that
yourself.
was, yes. And that was Swamini Supriyananda from Chinmaya Mission in Hong Kong. Thank you so much, Swaminiji. Hari Om.